For our next project, we're going to be creating slab boxes. On your slab box, I want you to explore surface design and decoration. You can explore a variety of patterns and textures through stamping using a variety of methods, different items, stamps, random objects from around the room, lace, for example, perhaps scrap wood, or maybe even some of the stamps that we have on the cart, or you can grab the end of a marker cap, made the texture on the left there, for example. Anything that you can find can make texture. Clay will receive the texture of anything that you press into it. So we want to really explore the options on the project. Here are some examples of different textures that you can create. You can use these items to create patterns throughout your piece. For example, the piece on the bottom right there, this artist has used a tool to press into the clay over and over again in order to create this really amazing texture. Here's another example. You can create textures that actually have order and symmetry to them, or your textures and patterns could be a little bit more unorderly or asymmetrical. It's completely up to you. It's all determined by your design. You have to decide your construction method as well. This is going to be determined by the design that you choose. You could do a template like the design on the left. This would need to be constructed with what's called soft slabs construction. So in order to actually fold that clay piece, you could imagine that your clay needs to still be relatively pliable, because if you go to fold that clay and it were more like leather hard clay, you're going to get cracks at that point where it folds. So you've got soft slab construction. If you're going to try to create this out of one piece, the benefit of soft slab construction with a template, you have less scoring and slipping. You have eliminated essentially the need to score and slip where your walls meet your base. The piece on the right here, your clay is going to need to be a little bit more firm in order to join all of your walls in a geometric design. The benefit of this stiff slab construction is making a slab item that has a more geometric feel to it. So the piece on the left is going to look a little bit more organic. It might change shape on you just a little bit, but you could paddle it into shape. Whereas the piece on the right is really going to keep and retain its shape because those slabs are put together close to leather hard or at leather hard. No matter what you pick though, you have to score and slip your walls or these will fall apart. As your clay dries, remember it's going to shrink. It doesn't shrink to your benefit. It's going to shrink where your walls fall apart. So scoring and slipping is essential. You want to make sure that you use ample amounts of either slip in between or scoring, and then maybe even some magic water in between if you did the stiff slab construction. If your clay is a little on the firm side, that magic water can really help to join those pieces together because it has a higher silica content, which is basically the sticky component in clay. Here are some examples. These would be really good examples of the stiff slab construction, especially the piece on the right that is very vertical. That would be quite a challenge if your clay was very pliable and in that fresh stage. Piece on the bottom left is a really good example of incorporating a very interesting lid with a handle that is a little bit interesting and unique. For our slab box that we're going to be creating, you are going to be challenged to create a handle or some sort of way to get your lid on and off. It doesn't necessarily have to be made out of clay though, so I'll show you some examples in class. I want you to also think about the foot. So this piece has some feet on it that actually elevate the piece. It just kind of takes it off of the table and it doesn't make it look so weighted and heavy. So think about if you want to incorporate feet into this piece. Here are two pieces with unique footings that, again, elevate this piece. The piece on the right is very, very, very heavy looking. So these feet really help to elevate it and take away that weight. It doesn't make it look like it's just kind of like, frumpy laying on the table there. It really gives it a little airy feel, especially the one on the left. It almost looks like it's alive. So here's a really great visual example of the step-by-step stages to get your slab box together if you're going to do the stiff slab construction, if you want it to be more of a geometric slab box. This one is going to be all about timing. This can be a really big struggle. So you really want to make sure that you roll out all your slabs the same day. Even if you don't get these, connected on the same day, you want to make sure that you get them rolled out on the same day, because the humidity and moisture in the air in the studio today could be different than 2 days from now. And remember, your clay is going to shrink as it dries. So the piece, that you made 2 days ago, it's not going to be the same size as the piece you're making today. So that's really important to keep in mind. Here's another visual for you on how to get these pieces to attach. I really like to add a little bit of slip slurry on the edges of my walls before I do the scoring. It just really makes like a mucky mess to join those pieces together, and they've got no choice but to stick together. You want to really make sure you're attaching everywhere they touch. That's wall to wall, and then also including the base. And sometimes people are not sure, should I make the base first or should I make the walls first? It's kind of up to you. I have a tendency, I like to make my base first and then I attach my walls to the base, because if I attach all my walls together, it's really hard to fit that bottom inside there. You want your walls to lean up against the bottom. It forms a bit of a scaffolding. It gives the wall something to lean onto. And it's just really difficult to make that bottom fit inside of there. So keep that in mind as you're going along. So I would probably cut that bottom and then decide, okay, how do I measure to make sure that my walls actually fit around this base? If you would like to do something that has a little bit more of an angle to it, you have to kind of think and maybe look at those templates to see what kind of angle do I maybe need to cut my walls at in order to achieve that angle. Things get a little more interesting when you want to incorporate angles, a little bit more challenging. However, your piece can look a little bit more dynamic if you can incorporate angles into your walls. We want to really explore designs for our lids, get a little unique and funky, maybe think about incorporating something different for the handle. This is a really good slide so you can see how the lid is actually going to fit down either into the piece or perhaps rest around the piece. This is a fitted lid, so this lid only fits one way. So it's almost like a jack-o'-lantern cut where you could actually construct all your walls together and then take a razor blade and cut that lid to fit, and it only fits one way. This one here, this is called a flange on this Nestle Toll House jar here. This flange actually fits down into the jar and makes it fit, so it only fits one way. Whereas you might have a lid that actually kind of nests down inside of the container. So the lid is going to completely be up to you. And again, it kind of goes with your design that you choose. So what we're going to be making are actually prayer boxes. And you might be thinking, well, I'm not really, a prayer kind of person, or I'm not really religious, but everybody has, a way to reflect or kind of meditate in their own way. And this is one way to do it. So I like to think of this more as a piggy bank for your thoughts. So even if you find yourself not being a very religious or spiritual person, that's not an out to not do the project. It's just a challenge to think, well, how can I do this project and make it meaningful for me? If you are a spiritual person and you are a religious person, this is gonna, be right up your alley. If you're not, that's okay. Like I said, piggy bank for your thoughts. We're going to incorporate some sort of text into our piece. It can be an inspirational message, or it could literally be a Bible passage. So I'm going to talk to you about where to find that. So these are some good images for us to look at. It's got an image on there on the actual piece carved in that has a great reference of itself. That's a beautiful little inspirational image. Whereas this one actually has some text carved into it that has a spiritual reference. And you can even incorporate things. I love the idea of incorporating items onto this that are not made of clay. It just kind of takes it a step further and makes it a little bit more interesting. So the idea of the prayer boxes are really quite interesting. We have all these hurried moments throughout our day, and a lot of times we don't take time to sit down and reflect and really give things over to God. And so by taking this prayer box and thinking of it as a little piggy bank for our thoughts, it makes this little item a reminder that we need to kind of take time to quiet ourselves throughout our day. This slide here is a really beautiful reminder of the history of prayer boxes. And so prayer boxes sometimes would be gifts at weddings. And so these were not usually made out of clay. They were often small leather or even carved bone boxes. And they might be filled with like little keepsakes and scriptures and given to the person so that it would be a good keepsake to help them in their spiritual journey. So when you see that box, you just kind of need to be reminder of the things that are supposed to go in it. And it's not really meant to gather dust. It's supposed to be kind of a living, breathing idea that's kind of a part of your life. So what the heck are we going to do? How are we going to approach this thing? So I would like for you to collect 10 to 12 images online with sources, but that really doesn't relate if you're going to go to Pinterest. You can just send me your Pinterest link and that will capture the source. If you get a tutorial video, that could be really great for how to construct it. And then what I would like for you to do is brainstorm 2 sketches of what you would like to make. So first, we're looking at what other artists do, and then the brainstorm is actually, what are you going to do with that, all right? So approaching your design can be kind of challenging, and it can be a little overwhelming. I want you to really think about texture. This is just going to challenge you to think about the surface design and just not having kind of a plain Jane box. So building the box is one challenge, but then thinking about how can I push it a little bit further, that's an additional challenge, right? So as far as the text go, it doesn't have to be over the top. This piece on the upper right, this is pretty simple. This isn't a Bible passage, but it's just a little inspirational message for this artist to have to remind themselves to pray more and worry less. And that's a beautiful message. If you're struggling with where to start, I've incorporated a hyperlink here for you. This takes you to blueletterbible.org. And this is a really great website where you can change the Bible version to the closest we can get on this website to the New Revised Standard Version on this website is the Revised Standard Version. So you can go there and you can search keywords like love or pray or stars, and that could help you find a passage that kind of speaks to you. And that'll help maybe focus your journey on what do I want this to look like. Perhaps a focal point or a center of interest could help focus you on this. Maybe it's the actual, the way to take the lid on and off, the little handle right here. And maybe it has some little trinkets or medals, medallions, something that is really a center of interest for you. That could maybe be your focus, and that could maybe get you started in the right direction. I put some links here for you. All of these will take you to a variety of Pinterest boards. This one is my clay templates. Those are the soft slab construction. This one will take you to my texture boards. Then I've got a link to my prayer box boards. And then lastly, just slab boxes in general. So these aren't specific to slab boxes, but prayer boxes, but they are really great slab box examples, okay? So I'm hoping that all of these links will get you started in the right direction. And then you can take that from there and springboard it into doing your image collection and your sketches, and that we can really enjoy this project and make a worthwhile piece that you can enjoy for years